At its core, Stoicism is a philosophy designed to help individuals cultivate inner peace, resilience, and wisdom by focusing only on what they can control and accepting what they cannot. Developed in ancient Greece and later refined by Roman philosophers, Stoicism remains one of the most practical and applicable schools of thought for navigating the complexities of modern life. The essence of Stoicism can be summarized in a simple but profound principle. True peace comes from mastering our own minds rather than trying to control the external world. One of the foundational teachings of Stoicism is the dichotomy of control, which distinguishes between what is within our power and what is beyond it. According to Epictetus, a former slave turned Stoic philosopher, suffering arises when we attempt to control things outside our influence, whether it's other people's opinions, the past, or external circumstances. Instead, we should direct our energy toward what we can control: our thoughts, choices, and actions. By embracing this mindset, we free ourselves from unnecessary anxiety and frustration. The Stoics also believed that our perception and judgment shape our emotional responses. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic thinker, wrote extensively about how our interpretation of events determines our level of distress. He famously stated, "If you are distressed by anything external, it is not the thing itself that troubles you, but your judgment about it." In other words, it's not external events that disturb us, but how we choose to react to them. By reframing our perspective and maintaining emotional discipline, we can remain calm and composed even in the face of adversity. This emphasis on rational thought and self-discipline is what makes Stoicism so powerful. Rather than allowing emotions to dictate our actions, Stoics advocate for reasoned decision-making. This does not mean suppressing emotions, but rather understanding them and responding wisely. Through consistent practice, one can cultivate emotional resilience and achieve a state of tranquility, ataraxia, a deep sense of inner peace unshaken by external chaos. The Stoics believed that a life of virtue is the key to true fulfillment. Unlike many modern interpretations that associate happiness with pleasure or success, Stoicism teaches that happiness comes from living in accordance with reason, integrity, and moral excellence. The philosophy is built upon four cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Wisdom is the ability to discern what we can and cannot control. It is the foundation of all Stoic practice, guiding us to make rational choices rather than being led by impulsive emotions. A wise person understands that misfortune, criticism, or loss are external events that should not dictate their inner state. They focus on self-mastery, seeing life's difficulties as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles to happiness. Courage is the strength to act in alignment with what we can control. Life presents inevitable hardships, from personal struggles to societal challenges. The Stoics believed that courage is not merely about physical bravery, but also about moral strength, the ability to stand firm in our values, face adversity with grace, and endure discomfort without losing our inner balance. Seneca, a Stoic philosopher and advisor to Emperor Nero, wrote that sometimes even to live is an act of courage. Justice is the commitment to acting fairly and morally, regardless of external circumstances. While many philosophies focus on self-improvement in isolation, Stoicism emphasizes our duty to others. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the idea that humans are social creatures meant to contribute to the greater good. To live justly means treating others with fairness, kindness, and integrity, not because we expect anything in return, but because it aligns with virtue. The Stoic approach to justice is not dependent on external rewards or recognition. It is an internal commitment to doing what is right. Temperance is the practice of self-control, especially in how we react to external events. In a world full of distractions, temptations, and emotional triggers, temperance allows us to remain balanced. This virtue helps us regulate our desires, restrain impulsive reactions, and cultivate patience. A Stoic does not allow momentary pleasures or fleeting frustrations to dictate their actions. Instead, they remain steady, knowing that discipline leads to long-term fulfillment. By practicing these four virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, one can develop a mindset that is both resilient and unshakable. These principles provide the foundation for a life of inner peace, allowing individuals to navigate uncertainty with confidence and clarity. Stoicism teaches that we cannot control the world, but we can control how we engage with it. Every moment presents a choice, to react impulsively or respond with wisdom, to let emotions dictate our actions or to exercise self-discipline. When we embrace this philosophy, we step into a mindset of true freedom, one where external events no longer hold power over our happiness, and where we find fulfillment in living virtuously, rather than in chasing things beyond our control. One of the greatest sources of anxiety and disappointment in life comes from our attachment to outcomes. We invest time, energy, and emotions into our goals, relationships, and ambitions, expecting things to turn out a certain way. But when reality doesn't align with our expectations, we suffer. The job we worked so hard for goes to someone else. The relationship we cherished falls apart. The project we poured our soul into doesn't receive the recognition we hoped for. The Stoics recognized this universal human tendency and identified it as a major cause of distress. Expectations, they believed, are the enemy of peace. When we tie our happiness to specific results, we give control of our well-being to external forces that we cannot influence. Instead of living freely, we become prisoners of circumstances. Stoicism offers an antidote. Detaching from the outcome and focusing only on what we can control, our efforts and actions. For the Stoics, suffering arises not from external events themselves, but from our attachment to them. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of Stoicism's most influential teachers, famously said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not. If you desire something that is beyond your control, you are bound to be disappointed." This simple truth reveals the root of much of our suffering. We become emotionally invested in things outside our control: success, recognition, love, the opinions of others, forgetting that no amount of effort can guarantee a particular result. By clinging to these desires, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, also emphasized this idea in his Meditations. He wrote, "Do not be perturbed, for all things follow the laws of nature, and in a little time you will be no one and nowhere, just as Hadrian and Augustus are now." In other words, no matter how much we try to shape the world according to our wishes, life will unfold as it will. Recognizing this allows us to let go of unnecessary worry and focus on what truly matters: our own actions, choices, and mindset. A key Stoic principle is the distinction between effort and outcome. We have complete control over the effort we put into something, but the final result is influenced by many external factors: luck, timing, the decisions of others, and random chance. The Stoics teach us to shift our attention away from the outcome and place it entirely on the process. Imagine an archer preparing to shoot an arrow. The archer can control their aim, posture, breathing, and release. But once the arrow is in the air, its path is subject to the wind, the quality of the bow, and other factors beyond the archer's control. A Stoic would say, focus on taking the best possible shot, and let go of worrying about whether the arrow hits the target. This philosophy applies to every area of life. A writer can control how much effort they put into crafting a novel, but they cannot control whether it becomes a bestseller. A student can prepare thoroughly for an exam, but they cannot guarantee a perfect score. A person can be kind and loving in a relationship, but they cannot force another person to stay. By focusing only on our effort, discipline, and integrity, we free ourselves from the stress of uncertain outcomes. This mindset does not mean abandoning ambition. It means they're pursuing excellence while accepting whatever results come our way with grace. Detaching from results doesn't mean giving up on goals or becoming indifferent to success. It means shifting our focus from my control over external events to the mastery over ourselves. Here are some practical ways to apply this principle. 1. Pursue goals without attachment to success. Work hard, be disciplined, and strive for excellence, but don't let your happiness depend on external validation. If your goal is to start a business, put in your best effort, but accept that market conditions, competition, or timing may affect the outcome. 2. Face failure without feeling defeated. If a job interview doesn't go as planned or a project doesn't succeed, recognize that failure is simply an outcome, not a reflection of your worth. Seneca reminds us that a setback is just a lesson in disguise. Learn from it, adapt, and move forward. 3. Let go of external validation. We often attach our self-worth to praise, likes, or approval from others. But these are beyond our control. Instead of seeking validation, focus on living with integrity and staying true to your values. Practice detachment in relationships. Love and care for others, but do not cling to them out of fear of loss. Stoicism teaches us that everything in life is temporary. People change, relationships evolve, and loss is inevitable. By appreciating people without being dependent on them, we cultivate deeper, healthier connections. 5. Reframe unexpected outcomes as neutral. If things don't go as planned, remind yourself, this is neither good nor bad. It just is. Rather than labeling an outcome as a failure or a success, see it as simply another event in life's ever-changing flow. By practicing detachment from outcomes, we experience less stress, greater resilience, and deeper contentment. Instead of being emotionally swayed by external events, we become steady, calm, and unshaken. The key to peace is not in controlling the world, but in mastering how we respond to it. The next time you find yourself worrying about whether something will turn out as you hope, pause and ask yourself, have I done my best? Have I acted with virtue? If so, I have already succeeded, regardless of the outcome. One of the most fundamental teachings of Stoicism is the dichotomy of control, the distinction between what is within our power and what is beyond it. At first glance, this might seem obvious, but truly embracing this principle can be life-changing. The Stoics believed that most of our emotional suffering comes from trying to control things we never had power over in the first place, the actions of others, unexpected circumstances, or the way the world unfolds. By focusing only on what we can control, our own thoughts, choices, and actions, we free ourselves from unnecessary stress and frustration. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, put it simply, happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within your control and some things are not. When we resist reality, when we wish that events had turned out differently, or that people would behave according to our expectations, we create suffering for ourselves. We get angry when traffic delays our plans. We feel frustrated when someone doesn't treat us the way we want. We stress about things that, in truth, are beyond our ability to change. But what if we simply accepted things as they are instead of fighting them? This doesn't mean we stop caring about outcomes or become passive in life. Rather, it means that we recognize where our influence ends and choose to direct our energy where it actually matters. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic thinker, constantly reminded himself of this truth in meditations. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When we embrace this mindset, we stop wasting mental and emotional energy on things we cannot control. Instead, we channel our focus toward what we can control, our responses, our attitudes, and our actions. This shift is liberating, allowing us to move through life with greater peace and resilience. A major aspect of learning to accept what we cannot control is recognizing the impermanence of everything around us. Life is constantly changing. People grow and evolve, relationships shift, and circumstances fluctuate. Clinging to stability in an unstable world is a recipe for frustration. The Stoics taught that to live well, We must embrace impermanence rather than resist it. Seneca, a Stoic philosopher and statesman, wrote extensively about the fleeting nature of life. No man steps in the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and he is not the same man. Everything is in motion. The people we love, the comforts we enjoy, even our own health, none of these are permanent. Instead of fearing this truth, Stoicism encourages us to accept it with gratitude. When we stop resisting the natural flow of life, we stop suffering from unrealistic expectations. This idea also applies to the past and future. We cannot change the past, no matter how much we dwell on it. Likewise, we cannot fully control the future, no matter how much we plan. The only thing we have any real power over is the present moment. By embracing impermanence, we develop a profound sense of freedom. We stop grasping at things, fearing change, or becoming overly attached to specific outcomes. Instead, we learn to appreciate what we have while it lasts, knowing that change is inevitable. Understanding these principles is one thing. Applying them in daily life is another. Here are some practical ways to cultivate acceptance and reduce frustration over things you cannot control. 1. Is this within my control? Exercise. When faced with a difficult situation, ask yourself, is this something I can change, or is it outside my control? If it's within your control, take action. If it's not, remind yourself to let go. Example: if you don't get the promotion you wanted, focus on improving your skills for future opportunities rather than dwelling on the outcome. 2. Reframing setbacks as neutral events. Instead of labeling something as good or bad, try seeing it as neutral. Example: if it rains on the day of an outdoor event, instead of saying, "This ruined everything," say, "It rained. That's nature." This small shift removes unnecessary negativity. 3. Practice the art of letting go. When you feel resistance to reality, pause and take a deep breath. Say to yourself, "This is beyond my control, and that's okay." Example: if a friend cancels plans last minute, rather than feeling frustrated, accept it and use the time for something else productive or enjoyable. Use negative visualization. A powerful Stoic exercise is premeditatio malorum, imagining potential hardships before they happen. By mentally preparing yourself for setbacks, you become less reactive when they occur. Example: before an important meeting, remind yourself, "Things might not go my way, and that's okay. I will focus on presenting my ideas well, regardless of the outcome." 5. Focus on your own actions and character. Instead of worrying about whether others approve of you, ask, "Did I act with integrity? Did I do my best?" Example: if someone criticizes you unfairly, instead of trying to change their opinion, focus on whether your actions align with your values. When we fully embrace the Stoic principle of accepting what we cannot control, we become less reactive, less anxious, and more at peace. We stop resisting reality and start working with it. We learn to adapt, to move forward, and to focus only on what truly matters, our own thoughts, choices, and actions. The next time you find yourself stressed about something outside your control, pause and remind yourself, "I cannot control everything, but I can control how I respond, and in that, I am free." One of the most powerful Stoic principles is the idea that while we cannot control what happens to us, we can always control how we react. Life is unpredictable. People will be rude, setbacks will occur, and disappointments are inevitable. But according to Stoic philosophy, it is not these external events that disturb us. It is our interpretation and reaction to them that determine our level of peace or distress. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This principle is echoed by Epictetus, who emphasized that events themselves are neither good nor bad. What matters is how we choose to respond to them. He taught that our initial emotional reactions may be automatic, but our second response, the way we interpret and act on those emotions, is always within our control. Seneca also reinforced this idea, reminding us that while external circumstances may challenge us, our inner state is entirely our responsibility. Understanding this concept is one thing, but applying it requires discipline. Emotional reactions often feel immediate and uncontrollable. Anger flares up when someone insults us, anxiety takes hold when things don't go as planned, frustration builds when we feel disrespected. But these reactions are not predetermined. They are habits, and like all habits, they can be reshaped. With practice, we can learn to pause, reflect, and respond with wisdom rather than impulse. One of the most effective ways to master your reactions is to train your mind to pause before responding. This simple act of creating space between an event and your reaction allows you to choose a response aligned with reason rather than emotion. The Stoics practiced this through journaling and reflection. At the end of each day, Marcus Aurelius would review his thoughts and actions, assessing whether he had responded in accordance with his values. By engaging in this practice, he strengthened his ability to respond with composure rather than impulse. Another technique is to mentally rehearse potential challenges in advance. If you anticipate a difficult conversation, a stressful work situation, or criticism from someone, take a moment to visualize how you will respond with calm and clarity. By preparing yourself ahead of time, you reduce the likelihood of reacting emotionally in the moment. In daily life, there are countless opportunities to practice this principle. Imagine dealing with a rude colleague who speaks to you harshly. Your immediate instinct might be to snap back, defend yourself, or hold resentment. But a Stoic approach would be to pause and ask, is their behavior within my control? But how I respond is. Instead of reacting with anger, you can choose patience, detachment, or even humor. The external event remains the same, but your reaction changes the entire experience. Another example is receiving criticism. Many people feel personally attacked when criticized, but the Stoics remind us that criticism is just words. It is our interpretation of those words that causes distress. Before reacting defensively, consider, is there truth in this? If so, I can learn from it. If not, then it does not concern me. By responding calmly, you maintain control over yourself rather than allowing someone else's words to dictate your emotions. Disappointment is another challenge where this principle is essential. Suppose you work hard for a promotion, but someone else gets it. Your first reaction might be frustration, self-doubt, or even resentment. But a Stoic approach would be to recognize that the decision was beyond your control. The only thing that remains in your power is how you move forward. Whether that means improving your skills, seeking new opportunities, or accepting the outcome with grace. To make this principle practical, consider creating a mental checklist for handling emotional reactions. When faced with a challenging situation, remind yourself to 1. Pause. Take a deep breath before reacting. 2. Assess. Ask, is this within my control? 3. Reframe. Shift your perspective. Is this truly a problem or just an inconvenience? 4. Respond with virtue. Choose wisdom, patience, and rationality over impulsive emotions. By practicing these steps, you train your mind to become less reactive and more composed. Over time, this leads to greater emotional resilience and a deeper sense of peace. Mastering your reactions does not mean suppressing emotions. It means understanding them, observing them without being controlled by them, and responding in a way that aligns with your highest values. When you take ownership of your responses, you reclaim your inner freedom. You become unshakable, not because the world stops challenging you, but because you have learned to navigate it with wisdom and control. Resilience is one of the most important virtues in Stoicism, the ability to endure hardships, adapt to challenges, and maintain inner peace regardless of external circumstances. Life is unpredictable, and suffering is inevitable. But according to the Stoics, what truly matters is not what happens to us, but how we respond. To cultivate resilience is to train the mind to remain steady in the face of adversity, to see obstacles as opportunities for growth rather than reasons for despair. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the foundation of resilience, understanding that while we cannot control external events, we can control our perception of them. Resilience is not about avoiding hardship. It is about facing difficulty with courage, wisdom, and emotional stability. Seneca echoed this idea when he said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." For the Stoics, hardship is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. Every challenge is an opportunity to develop greater patience, strength, and wisdom. Building resilience begins with training the mind to reinterpret challenges. When something difficult happens, a failure, a loss, or an unexpected setback, the instinctive reaction is often frustration, disappointment, or fear. But Stoicism teaches that adversity itself is neutral. It is our perception of it that shapes our experience. By practicing our reframing, we can turn difficulties into valuable lessons. Instead of thinking, "Why is this happening to me?" a Stoic would ask, "How can I use this experience to grow stronger?"